Hi, everyone. I'm Monica, and we're back with reJUVEnation, episode 11. And I have an interesting guest on today, the opposition, representing the opposition, Lazio. Introduce yourself.
Hi, thank you for having me on. I'm Jerry. People know me from World Football Index, the Laziale, or just my crazy videos on my Twitter account. But crazy Lazio fan who who's loved this team since I was couldn't go back since I was maybe 5, 6, and still root for this team, and hopefully we can get the better side of Juve finally. Um, History has shown that Juve has been the dominant side versus Lazio. Maybe the record shows it, but the matches have always been intense, have always been close. From what I've known in recent history, Juve has been the better side winning, but it's never been like a clear winner. So we'll see what happens tomorrow.
Speaking of history, why don't you share, I guess, your favorite memory of Juve Lazio? Either way, home away, doesn't matter. The tie itself.
I'll go recent history, and I think I have to go back to the Super Coppa Italia when Lazio came back or scored the decisive game winner in the last minute, and I believe it was a Jordan Lukaku pass into the box, and I believe Alessandro Murgia has scored the winner, and it was a very exciting time to finally get the upper hand of Juventus in a significant race or for a trophy, basically. So that was a very good moment for Lazio.
For me, my favorite moment was has to be, I guess, from what I've seen. I'm still kind of young, so I don't remember back in the day, but it would definitely be Del Piero's free kick, hands down. It's kind of like the first or second moment I actually like cried. I don't know why, but to me that was like the Scudetto goal in 2011 when Pirlo was kind of chirping with the ref, and then Del Piero just hit a low free kick, and Mark who's the goalie? Marchetti?
Marchetti, I believe.
Yeah. He just stood still, and everything stood still, and that famous tongue out of his mouth celebration. And so in recent times, for sure, that'd be the Dybala one is kind of close, but I mean that one tops it for me. So we'll get into the kind of pre-match here, Juventus Lazio. So Juventus sitting in third place with 49 points with the game in hand, taking on seventh place Lazio, but in very similar fashion, 43 points with the game in hand. Obviously, the game against Torino kind of was a situation similar to Juventus Napoli, um, in not being able to travel. And just like Juventus, Lazio put out their starting lineup on Twitter and took the field, waiting for the opposition to come, knowing that they wouldn't. Um, and I'm not sure if you were actually one of the guys giving Juventus stick for doing that, but it seems like your team followed suit. Were you one of those guys tweeting on Twitter saying, like Juve's being kind of jerky about that? They shouldn't have went out and this and that.
I don't remember really sticking it to Juve about having their lineup up and having their players out. I think it was more I was on both fences. First, I started off that Napoli was in the wrong of what they did at the beginning, the whole flight, and then when reports started to come out, I kind of went to the against Juve, and then I kind of stopped in general because I got to the point where I was getting called out, and because you're just going on so many reports that you just don't know what to do. I didn't care about them bringing their lineup out, and you're doing what you have to do. At the end of the day, I'm in the boat where Juve did the right thing to bring out their lineup and bring out the players because you want to save your ass, and you're on the opposite end that you got players who are there. You're the home team. Just secure the 3 points and see how it plays out. Um, what I didn't like was when I believe it was Agnelli who said that we follow the rules, we respect the rules, and it's like that's where I was like, oh, now we're crossing the line now because if I heard Lotito say we respect the rules, then I'd be like, you don't respect the rules because you've broken them many times and you're contradicting yourself. From a Lazio standpoint, Tade had said that we followed the rules, which is the right thing to say in my opinion, because he's right. You are following the rules and the guidelines of what are given to your team. So Tade and Latito and Zagi are going to say, we're going to bring our players on the field. We're going to approach the game and we're going to do what we control in our manner. What is available to us, we'll do. Now, as I wouldn't be mad now if they appealed Torino and they had won, given the circumstances that they weren't able to fly to Rome due to the Turin ASL. I get it. I know a lot of people will probably give me flack for this, but and I know that Torino had used their first postponement game, but in respect, there wasn't enough time to clear like protocols and everything because 3 days later you have another game. So it's not like you postponed your game on Friday and there's a week until the next game. So there wasn't a really clear timetable for them to manage to have players available. On the ops side, there were players from the Primavera squad and like such on that could have been available to play. So I don't know if Cairo has something in the background where he may be thinking that he's bending the rules or something. I just know that Lotito is going to war against him.
I think we can agree that Napoli set a dangerous precedent, and um, you know, uh, I guess according to what happened with the Juve match, I would think that they would have to find a way to replay this match as the season, progresses and comes to a close. Uh,
Can I just add to that?
yeah, go ahead.
I don't blame Napoli. I don't. I know that Napoli has set the guideline now, but a lot of people are blaming Napoli of what had happened. I don't blame them. If you're given due diligence to fight for your right and to appeal to the very bitter end, and if you feel that you have done no wrong, go for it. It's given to you, right? Like I I don't think that Napoli did anything wrong. I think the league did wrong by
Yeah,
not
yeah,
sticking to the rules. That and I think a lot of people forget that
yeah. It's
because
the league. It's the league setting the precedent by
yeah,
not awarding Juventus the 3 points, and having to repeat the game. I feel like Torino is thinking, we're gonna play this game down the road because that's what the league did for Napoli. So when I said like the Napoli set a dangerous precedent, it was in terms of the Juve Napoli tie and the result of that, the outcome that the league agreed on.
no, 100%.
Juve has won 3 of the last 5 matches in Serie A against Lazio. Lazio won once, and both teams tied once, and the most recent being the tie, the 1-1 with earlier this season with Casero goal in injury time. Kind of made Bonucci get put in the spin cycle on that one. So just with some pre-match comments, we'll touch on Pirlo first. I just wanted to highlight, the pre-match and post-match is a lot of fluff a lot of the times from whoever's doing the conferences. We're still mathematically in. Until we're out, we're out. We're gonna keep fighting, that type of stuff. But so I just wanted to highlight, you know, this comment from Pirlo because I feel like it's the most important one, not only for this match but for Juventus this season, and it's in regards to the injury news. He basically provides an update saying that Delict is out. He didn't train. Bonucci kind of did his own training, so he won't be quite ready. Arthur as well, feeling less pain but not ready yet either. Murata not being 100%, but he's working towards it. But I think the main thing here is that Quadrado seems to be back, and he played a role in the goal that we scored against Lazio first time around, provided the assist. I think he's been one of our key players as well. So looking forward to that. And then we're missing still guys like Dybala, Chiellini, and Frabotta's out with accumulating yellow cards, and then Bentancur just tested positive for COVID. And then Inzaghi also highlights, a few of your players that are missing, like Lazzari, and I feel like he would have given Alexandro a really tough time on that side, and I feel like he's been one of the key players in specifically in the ties against Juve. He's very quick and offers that overlap, and he's kind of like a hybrid type of, like, he reminds me of Chiesa with a little bit more, defensive duties. And obviously, not as skillful on the attack as Chiesa, I would say, um, or as a finisher, but he's a tricky player. So, I think that works in Juve's favor for sure. He also touches on Radu being out and Luis Felipe. I'm not sure if you guys are still having some center back issues. I know that Parolo had to play center back against Inter. Um, what's your center back situation now?
Well, it's been rumored that Adam Marusic could be playing as a center back as of tomorrow, and I saw a colleague of mine, Stephen Moore, who runs the Laziale, and said a good point. I want to reference him as that a guy like Marasic, who is a wing back, can also play as a center back because his ability to go up and come back and transition back with the defense. And he will have, I believe, Fares on the left side supporting him. So that is a very interesting way of looking at it. I think left or you know what, on the right side. Sorry, with Lulich, and he would have a Cherby on the left, and then Hoot will be in the middle. So, and I think that was one scenario, or it could be wrong, because yeah, it could be wrong actually, or
I
he
think
has.
that's very similar to. I mean, if that's the case, I think he's on the left, Marusic, if I'm not mistaken. And most of Lazio's play is on the left, and the little that I watch of Lazio, that obviously doesn't include Juve, they are very dependent on that left side from what I've seen. And he likes to get up there, and that could work in Lazio's favor, similarly to the way Danilo, you know, does plays that same role for Juventus, being involved in the play and the transition to offense. Because I mean, guys like that um, know how to dribble with the ball and penetrate and start an attack, because they're kind of wing backs to begin with. Um, so that's interesting if that's the case for Lazio. Um, we can get into more of the lineup for Lazio. I'll just start with Juve. There's kind of two rumored lineups for Juve circulating. One's a 3-4-1-2, and the other is a 4-4-2. It's kind of the two formations that we've been going toward, with Chesney in both. So the 3-4-1-2, Chesney, Danilo, Demiral, Sandro, and then Chiesa, McKennie, Rabiot, Bernardeschi, Ramsey behind Kulusevski and Ronaldo, or a 4-4-2 with Chesney, Quadrado, Demiral, Danilo, Sandro making up the four-man back, and Chiesa, McKennie, Rabiot, Bernardeschi, and then Kulusevski and Ronaldo. So I guess the main difference, I guess, is Ramsey, and whether we're playing the three or the four in the back. Um, do you see any issues with this personnel, or positives in this lineup? And I'm speaking in terms of Lazio. Like, what do you see in this lineup that you're like, okay, we got to be careful, and then let's target that guy.
So you said 4-4-2 for Juventus, right? I I noticed that the 4-4-2 is not the right formation. It really doesn't get the best out of this team. And I'm not a tactic specialist. Like I really don't, because I have never played football in my life. I can't really, I try to learn more about the game and understand it. And from what the commentator was saying on Tuesday was that the problem with the 4-4-2 is they don't have the type of players that can play very attacking and cover a lot of space. They're very stagnant, and they're not very creative players that can play out wide and cover inside and track back. So the problem is with the 4-4-2, they sit back too much, and it takes them away from trying to advance into the final third and being more offensive. I realized that the first 60 minutes they really didn't attack Spezia as much as you would like. I think it's the fact that you don't cover the width of the field from end to end. Where like in the final half hour, like it didn't take till like the 35th or 30th minute until Juventus actually got a chance on target against Spezia. And as soon as Benedeschi and Maratta came in, they had two players that were able to penetrate and basically advance the ball upfield. I thought that Benedeschi's speed can really help in the 4-4-2 because he can track back and play up as well. I don't think that Chiesa is that kind of player that tracks back and goes forward. He's more just one dimensional. I find that he can go up, but there's the odd time he'll track back, but I find that he's just more one way. Now, what's the other formation you said? The
3-4-1-2.
4-3-4-1-2.
So it kind of it's Danilo, Demiral, Sandro. So what we saw in against Spezia, and then Keza, McKennie, Rabiot, Bernardeschi, and then Ramsey behind Kulusevski and Ronaldo.
I find that you can get more out of that because you got a holding midfielder who can like really you have that player up front that can really generate that attack for Ronaldo and Morata. I think you get more out of your team in that formation. Um, I could be wrong, but I noticed that when they play with the three back, they look more offensive and more creative on the ball. I
I,
think missing a guy like Artur, I don't like him at the beginning, but he's starting to look like the player that they were expecting him to be in that midfield. I still think that they're missing a guy who can make that long pass. Artur is a really good player for short passes to like really hold the midfield and try to get them out of that jam and give them some stability to move the ball. But a guy like Luis Alberto or Sergei Milinkovic-Savic in that midfield is what I've always been saying is what's missing. A lot of people think that Alberto's not the guy and it should be Sergei because he's box to box. I disagree a lot because a guy like Alberto he's fourth in key passes in Serie A, and that's something that a guy like Ronaldo would strive off of, who needs someone who can deliver a pass. And that is what Alberto's job is to give precise passes on the run behind the defense. Ronaldo loves to play behind the defense. He makes those runs. I think a guy like Alberto would try to like get those through balls and try to get him on the run. So I think that's something they're missing. But I can give you the Lazio side of what I'm expecting though, and there's only one formation for Lazio. It's a 3-5-2. You'll never see a four back. I'm still waiting to this day to see Inzaghi decide to like change it up when he's missing half of his squad, but that's never been the case. We've seen Parolo play wing back against Juventus, I think last year, but if I recall, but I see a back. So I was just reading the article actually right now, and it would be left center back for Adam Marusic, and then a Cherby will play on the right, and in the center will be Hoot, and then out wide will be Mohamed Fares on the left side, and Sena Lulic on the right side. And I know that Sena Lulic is a actual natural left wing back, but he plays as a natural left wing back, and he's right footed, which is crazy. So I don't. It's crazy how a lot of left wing backs I've heard that are not naturally left footed, but play with their right foot. And then in the midfield will be Luis Alberto on the left, Leva in the middle, and Savage on the right. Up top will be Immobile and Correa. And the player who I'm looking at to really make a difference in this game is Correa. Correa is the guy who really needs to take advantage of a depleted back end of Juventus, and his speed is what can make the difference. I thought that against Bologna, they played a low block and really made it hard for Lazio to really get into that final third and try to break down their defense. A lot of the times, Correa made that really nice 1-2 step kind of dribble where he got by the defense, but his finish is what really has hurt him this year, not being decisive and clinical enough. And I think that a guy like him can really break down that defense. And if he's very confident and he's on his game, he's one of the hardest players to actually stop. You got Immobile, who hasn't scored. I think he scored one goal in like the last 6 games, if I'm not mistaken, all competition. And he's kind of slacked in form of scoring, but overall his game hasn't dipped. I find. I think a lot of people forget that he can't be the only guy scoring goals. You bought Vedat Mariki, $20 million guy, who I'll be the first to say that I thought this guy was going to be the next thing. Anytime you sign somebody for $20 million, you think you're getting
Especially
freaking
Lotito money.
yeah, like exactly like I honestly thought we were getting a Maserati and a Ferrari combined here, but what we got is a Pontiac right now. So Immobile, he's the only guy since the Simone Inzaghi reign, and since Juventus have been playing, I believe, at the Alliance Stadium, he's the only player who has scored as Lazio being the visitor over there. So that kind of concerns me that goals have only come from Immobile. They have to come from somebody else now. Um, it hasn't been an issue to score at home for any players. Sergey did it last year. Caicedo's done it back-to-back games at home. So, and then losing a guy like Luis Felipe, Stefan Radu, and Lazzari are all big losses. I think Lazzari is probably the biggest loss of the three
Yeah.
because of that right side and his speed and his ability to go into the final third and create chances and just get balls into the actual goal area. I'm honestly I'm interested to see how Mohamed Fadis plays because it hasn't been a very good first season from him, and it's not all his fault. I there's a lot of factors I put into this. Coming late from the transfer market, I don't think he arrived until like maybe 3 weeks after the transfer market. By the time you actually start training, you get your legs going. By the time you get acquainted with your teammates, I know that he was at Spal and played in a 3-5-2 under Leonardo Semplici, but and then he had 2 injuries, and I also believe he had COVID, if I'm not mistaken. There's so many factors that hurt him, and then he had an injury in December. It hasn't been a balanced year. I think a lot of these players need to be judged next year when you're actually playing in a normal season, where you're not playing 500 times a week. But he really, I hope he can actually have a big game and get some confidence in him because he came to take over Sena Lulic's spot because I don't think he'll be back after this year. And if he does, I think it's a big mistake by Lazio because he's at the peak of his age where the peak of his like his career where I don't think he has it anymore. Especially that he had this injury, and God bless he was able to come back because he's really needed tomorrow. So that's how I see it. And another option was I heard that John Daniel Akpro is a possibility of playing right wing back as well.
Yeah, I think I saw a lineup with him in it actually on the right side. Um, I don't know too much about Fares, but all I know is that if Chiesa plays on that side, he's gonna have a handful with Chiesa. I do agree though, going back to your point on Juve specifically, this formation not really working. I've said it from day one. maybe not day one, but before, like in 2020, at the end of 2020, I sent out a tweet like, please, Pirlo, just try a 4-3-3. With Chiesa, as a right winger, Morata in the center, and Ronaldo as a left winger. Um, you can't expect a guy like that to track back. The same way, like similarly to Ronaldo, um, he shouldn't have those uh defensive tasks, because it just takes away, like you saw against Verona, him having to play like as a wing back, and then you see our struggles. Whereas against Spezia, he was the highest player up the pitch overall. Um, you know, throughout the match. And you saw that difference in creating the chances. Not only like the three goals, but the chances in general. He's our Ronaldo is Ronaldo for sure, but he can't create a chance the same way he used to be, like out of nothing. And you need guys to pick up the slack and feed Ronaldo in that sense. And Chiesa 100% is that player. It shows, he's has 6 goals, 4 assists, as like a hybrid kind of wing back ish player, having to do a lot of defensive work. Um, and then we have, some other key players as well that, in my opinion, are going to be the guys if Juve is going to get the 3 points, which is obviously Ronaldo. Another season, 20 goals. I don't know the exact number of seasons in a row, but um, he just hit that pinnacle with the goal against Spezia. He also has a couple assists there too with 3. And then Quadrado for me is going to be huge. Um, Finally coming back, we've been missing him a lot. When he's back, he also allows Danilo to go on the other side and give Alexandro a break and offer a little bit more depth. But Quadrado was really making a nice partnership with Morata specifically prior to getting hurt. Um, and then, like I said earlier, Quadrado gave the assist to Ronaldo in the first game. He just offers something more on that right side, and it could also allow Chiesa to go on the left side too, right? To at least offer both flanks, like you said. Bernardeschi brought something different, and it allowed us to have another option that we didn't have to go to Chiesa on the right all the time. It because Alexandro doesn't really get up, and frankly, McKennie's not that player. As much as Pirlo wants to slap this 4-4-2 on, McKennie is not a left mid or a right mid. He's should be, going back and forth in the center of the park as a box to box midfielder. Um, and then if we look at Lazio, I mean the biggest three threats for me, correct me if I'm wrong, is Milinkovic Savic, Luis Alberto, and Immobile. So Milinkovic Savic having a great season, 5 goals, 7 assists. Um, and Luis Alberto has 7 goals, Immobile 14 and 3 assists. So even you think Immobile is not having a great season, and he's right up there as well. So I mean, I would take Lazio's midfield 100% in a heartbeat at Juventus, and especially the two guys you mentioned. They can create something out of nothing, and that's the biggest thing for me, because in Pirlo's approach, he wants to control the ball so much, and play those short passes and possession game involving the center backs pushing up, and everyone is just kind of sitting in and around the mid park and the opposition's half. And it doesn't work because we don't have good enough players for that. Lazio, if I were Lazio, I would just sit back and let Juve do that, because we're never going to break this team down with Rabiot and McKennie, controlling the game. I think Ramsey definitely needs to play. The only reason why I wouldn't play Ramsey is so you can have that option off the bench, only because our bench is so limited, and a guy like Fagioli is not going to change the game no matter how much Juve Twitter wants to scream about it. Um, and then Morata off the bench would be a good thing too. But that would be, my if I were Lazio, I don't know if you agree. If I were Lazio, I would just sit back and let Juve control the game. I'm not sure how good they are on the counterattack. I know that it worked against Juve to do this against Roma because they're mainly a counter-attacking team, and they look best when they're doing that. I'm not sure if that's Lazio's gameplay. Um, but if I were Juve, I would sit back and just let Lazio control the game because a 3-5-2 is always dangerous. And Juventus look the best when we're counterattacking, when we have less of the possession. We seem to be more lethal with our chances. And if you remember the first game against Juve, Lazio did control most of the game, but they didn't really do much with the ball that they had. Whereas Juventus, all of our chances, if you look at like a highlight reel, all of our chances were running, on the counter attack. And I feel like we're gonna miss Morata in that sense, but that would be my approach to the game. Let Lazio have the ball and wait for your moment to counterattack because I also see a Cherby pushing up as like a striker all the time. And I don't know if that's a desperation thing, but I was watching the game against Inter. Me and my brother were like, that chance just fell to a Cherby. Like, what the hell is he doing up there, kind of thing. And in a way, Juventus is similar when they attack that high up the field as well, and it often just hurts us because we're awful in defensive transition. Um, and I guess I'll just tell you this quote from Inzaghi. I'm sure what happened in the press conference, but he said like tomorrow there will be moments where we need to attack higher, and then moments where we'll need to sit back and defend and kind of suffer in defense. Um, and I feel like they should just suffer the whole game and grind it out and wait for their moment because if Juve plays like that, we're not going to be able to break them down. And I feel like they're doing themselves a disservice if they're going to allow Juve to counter them. That was a lot, but tell me how you feel about that.
I agree. Lazio is a counterattack team, and they're at their best when they catch teams playing high with a high press, and they can catch them with their defense out of line. Um, I hope that Lazio doesn't do the same mistake that they did against Inter, where they kept on attacking, and playing a high line, and it kind of resulted in Hoot making that one mistake where I don't think he had a bad game. Parolo having to track back and get destroyed by Lukaku, and it was just a bunch of mistakes because they were trying to play too aggressive. And I think that if they sit back against Juve, I think they can really catch them on the counterattack. The thing is that you don't have laxity for the counterattack. So I'm kind of interested to see if Inzaghi has a different approach to this. Marusic is another good choice to start the counterattack down the right side, um, if he plays on the right side. But I'm just curious to see how they play this out. I wouldn't be surprised if they do play the more of a defensive approach and try to attack them on the counter. It's how Lazio has been very opportunistic against some of the bigger teams, and it's worked. Maybe he thinks that his back line is not strong enough and he may need to hold possession. I just don't want to see a Cherby playing high against Juve because he can really burn us because they do have, if Kuleveski plays and you have Chiesa, you got two guys who are fast and can beat you on the counterattack as well. So, and I just want to put up a stat I wrote today on a match preview, and the one player who both sides should be looking out for, well, Juventus should be looking for their help, and Lazio need to be watching out for is Ronaldo. He's got 5 goals and 1 assist in the last 5 games played versus the Bianco Celesti. And this guy loves to play Lazio and just has a field day against us. So, and like the recent history, Juventus have only lost twice in the last 14 meetings with Lazio. I gave up because I think it was in like 34 games in total where like Lazio have only won 3 times. So the history since I think that was since 2005, if I recall, of December, and it is a history is on Juve's side. And I know a lot of people are gonna say that Lazio had a week off, a lot of time to recover and to like plan an attack against Juventus. I agree to that to a certain degree, and I want to quote our good friend Lucci, who basically wrote a tweet that Inzaghi was saying that now was the time to like take advantage. Like we're in a good position, and I think he kind of got it wrong because he says I think tomorrow's match arrives at the right time. That was it. That was the line, and Lucci kind of like, and I'm calling him all yes, and I know he's gonna listen to this, and I don't care. And basically, I think he left out the second part of what he said. We have defections like Juventus have. And Football Italia, for some reason, never translate the words 100% to the T, which is kind of frustrating. But I think what they're trying to say is that we have issues just like Juventus have.
Yes.
Basically, like the and that's I think that
I
Lucci
mean,
kind of took it
we're
out of
both in
context.
we're both in bad spots. Like we're both missing key players, but not only that, like our form isn't the greatest. Lazio lost 2 in a row. We're very similar in our approaches, I feel, and our weaknesses and things like that. So yeah, I would agree with your take on that translation.
Yeah, I think that, and I love Lucci. And I know if you're watching this, I'm just telling you right now because I saw that quote today, and I just don't agree. I know that Inzaghi knows that he has an advantage that they haven't played for a week, but that his assessment of facing him at the right time is right because we have injuries, but at the same time, Juve have injuries, so it's not like you want a full squad, but at the same time, your issues are not as big as they would be had Juventus had a full squad. So I agree with what Inzaghi had to say today on that. And you know what? I've seen Inzaghi pull out some miraculous wins. I think he'll have his team prepared after a very disappointing loss against Bologna last weekend. Um, I think the only mistake that he did last weekend that it won't be this time is his squad rotation. He could have done a better job of maybe resting key players. I don't have to go into detail, but basically, when you're playing the same players 3 times in 8 days, you kind of know that the third game is not going to be as a high intensity as you would like. And I would have preferred had he rested some key players, especially with had Torino played Lazio on Tuesday and then today, but that wasn't the case. And so we'll see what happens tomorrow. But I think that Inzaghi will have this team in the right mindset and will have them prepared. It's gonna come down to who makes the mistake in the back end. And I'm just happy to see that Patrick's name hasn't been mentioned.
I
To
see you
be
tweet a lot about him.
he is terrible. He is a liability. I like his work ethic and I like his devotion to the team. Like he's devoted and he has good character, but that can't override the fact that his skill set is just not good enough. Like I think that at the beginning of the year he was really good. He started off well, played a very sound game, wasn't really of a liability. As the season has progressed now into the second half, he has been more of a liability, and I don't know if it's teams figuring out how to play against him, knowing that his side is a weakness, but like just the decision making he makes that he's all over the place. he's supposed to be a center back, and he's playing up high. He's playing in the middle. He's playing on the left. He's playing on the right. You don't know what his position is because he's all over the place, and it's just so annoying sometimes.
Sounds like Bonucci sometimes.
But Bonucci's a chooch. He's a chooch. No one's Bonucci.
So he must be contributing to Lazio's 38 goals for, but 32 goals against. So I really, I think that's an important stat. And I really hope Juve. I'm all for ugly FC. I don't care. Who disagrees with me, and I know that there's people who disagree with me. But you can't play this positive, quick football with, you know, Rabiot and McKennie and guys like that. Like, sure, McKennie has been a bright spot for Juve. Does he look better because our midfield sucks? That's another story. Um, but you can't play that approach against, especially against bigger teams. I really just hope that Juve sits back and takes their moment, and plays a little bit more pragmatic. Um, I think that's the right approach to win a league in general, especially as tactical as Serie A. Um, and if you look at actually what Conte is doing, is he's playing like that. Um, they just sat back against Parma and destroyed them on the counterattack. And that's a team like Parma. You would think that you'd be taking the game to them, but they're lethal on the counterattack. And if it's working, then why change it just to look better, like prettier on the TV screen? Just that just I'll never understand that. And you're looking at this, and Lazio only has a +6 in goal differential. um and you look to see, we have offensive struggles. We struggle to create chances. um I don't know where we are right now in Serie A, but a few weeks back we were like sixth in chances created and sixth in goals for. Meanwhile, having the most possession, percentage of possession in the league. Um, so it just bothers me when Pirlo, it looked like he was adjusting to other teams and how they play, when we saw him go in that direction against Roma, and then we kind of went back to this gameplay. Talk about your Lazio's key players. Like, I want to know more about what they can do against this team. Like, we're lining up with potentially um Danilo, Sandro, and Demiral. Like, what do you think about Demiral in terms of what Lazio can do with their key guys like Luis Alberto and Milinkovic Savic, and obviously Immobile.
Well, I haven't watched a lot of Juventus this year, and for starters, I'm pretty pissed off. Well, Fabregas was gonna miss the game regardless because he picked up suspension, but a guy like Quadrado now at the back will provide them some stability on that left side. Had Fabregas had been starting this Saturday, they would have been really a lot of trouble. Well, actually, not as much because Lazzari wouldn't have been in the lineup, but Marusic can attack him as well. Um, I don't know what does the back four look like again. You got Demiral, Danilo,
It dep
Sandro, and Quadrado, right?
it depends if we go with a 3 or 4. If we go with a 3, it'll be Danilo on the right, Demiral in the middle, and Sandro as a left center back. And then if we go with a 4, it'll be Quadrado on the right, and then Demiral beside him, and then Danilo as a center back beside Demiral, and then Sandro as a left back.
My God, so like this guy has everyone playing out of position right now. That's how bad it is, hey?
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
when we're when we're a full squad, he still has people, playing out of position. Key's on the left, and then Key's on the right, and then 4-4-2 is still not the greatest formation for Chiesa. McKennie, like I said, is not that type of player. Um, so yeah, it's not even about being shorthanded. Uh, I know a lot of people defend Pirlo, but he's been playing guys out of position since the first game.
I honestly thought that before Demiral got hurt, I thought he was transitioning very well with Juventus, and he looked like a really promising player. Um, was very physical, making good challenges, reading the play very well. And since he's come back from his injury, it's kind of been a slow transition for him. I don't know if the time off has really hurt him. I think he was off for a while, but a lot of people have been calling out that he's been a liability in the back end. He hasn't been the same player. He's been lacking pace, looks kind of slow. And if that's the case, I see a guy like Immobile who can really attack him and try to catch him on a run, right? Try to play right behind him. So I can see that. I can see Correa attacking a back end that's not very quick and very agile. So that can be another opportunity. And maybe Luis Alberto decides to play up high behind Immobile and Correa to try to generate that attacking flow in behind Immobile and Correa to give him that pass. So I think there's a lot of options. I also saw a stat the other day where 71% of Lazio's plays are generated from the left and right side. So that's pretty interesting. And I wonder how that's going to affect the fact that with the Lazio out now, I believe it was like 29% down the right side. But
It's
yeah,
40% on the left, on the
40% on the
left
left.
side, and I think that from what I've seen, Marusic likes to really get up there, and I'm pretty sure that's Luis Alberto's favored side on the left.
Yes.
He plays from the left, so you can see where that makes sense there. And of course, Lazzari on the right, making up the rest of it pretty much is, yeah. I think he's the biggest loss because I think you nailed it where you're talking about like agility, um, and I feel like he would have just burned Alexandro, and if Bernardeschi's playing as a cover, um, obviously he's not great defensively either. Um, so yeah, I think that's a big loss.
Well, I think the fact that with Marisic on the left side with Fades now, okay, that's a really smart move by Inzaghi if that's the case because you got he is on that side, and what happens now is that you got two fast players in Fades and Marisic who can provide that extra assistance if Fades is to get burned. So I think that with Inzaghi, he's kind of seeing the speed of Chiesa, and he doesn't want to take that for advantage, and he's kind of respecting the player as well. So I see that as being a very smart tactical move. And Savage is another player to look out for, and his aerial presence has really caused a lot of teams problems. We saw that against Inter earlier in the year. I believe he had a chance against Juventus, if I'm not mistaken, where he headed a ball across the box and Vidat Marici had missed the opportunity, if I'm mistaken. But he came like he headed it wide or something like that. But his presence, I think that can really cause a lot of issues, a lot of trouble for that back end. His physicality, the way he can really create some space. So I think the counterattacks, the set pieces really are another thing that really benefits him, and he's one of the most successful free take players in the league right now. I think three of three of his goals this year have come off set pieces, so he can score from far distance as well. So that's something I would look at as well. It's just the back end that's really concerning for Lazio because they can't really earn clean sheets or keep clean sheets, or it's really hard. The defensive aspect of their game has hurt them this year, and that's just the fact that they just don't have enough depth in that back line. I'm kind of shocked that Musakio is not going to be playing tomorrow. I think that really hurts his confidence. That's something. It's very concerning because we brought this guy over in the winter transfer market in hopes to cover Luis Felipe on the right side, and it doesn't look like that's been the case right now. So we don't know why he's not starting tomorrow. We'll see if Inzaghi decides to change his mind, but yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree with you there that Lazio is just really struggling on the defensive end. Um, and then you got to look for guys to pull the weight other than Immobile, because you get that at Juve too, where it's Ronaldo, and then like up here with his productivity for us, and then you got Chiesa helping bits and pieces similar to Milinkovic Savic, but you need other guys to get involved. So having said all of that, what are your predictions for tomorrow? Um, and that could include anything, like me personally, I wouldn't be surprised if Demiral gives away a penalty and Immobile scores it. I also, in my mind, I think we'll go 1-1. And I think Ronaldo will be on our score sheet and Immobile on yours.
This is a really tough game because you can go either way. I'll go neutral in 2-2. I think this is going to be a very high scoring game. Um, I'm a mush, so I refuse to pick a winner for this game. I did the last time for another specific game called Inter versus Lazio, and I got burned on it. So I'm gonna go 2-2, and I'm gonna go unlikely heroes. I think Correa's gonna score in Savage, and then for Juve, I'll go with Ronaldo because the ball has to go to Ronaldo 99.9% of the time, and I'll go Morata.
All right. And I'm interested for your combined 11.
And I'll just go with a 3-5-2. I'll do that. So hold on. I'll do a back three of a Cherby in the middle. I'll go with I don't know. We'll go with Juan Cuadrado. We can go with on the what is it on the right side, I believe, right? And then I'll go with actually I'll go with Collini in the middle, a Cherby on the left, Cuadrado on the right. Bonucci doesn't make my lineup because I like Cuadrado much more than I like Bonucci. No one else satisfied me on Lazio in that back three. In the midfield, I will go with Chiesa as a right wing back because I think he would suit well in that role. And on the left, actually no, so I'll do Latidi on the right. My apologies. Latidi on the right, and is who's their left wing? Do they have any left wingers on the left side for Juventus? Can
Like
Chiesa play left?
Chiesa plays left. Our true like
Oh,
leftish person would be like Bernardeschi.
okay, so he's a true left winger, right? Chiesa, right? Or is he right?
He's a
He's
right
right.
sided,
He's
but
right.
he does play on the left.
I'll put Chiesa on the left. In the midfield, I'll put I will do Luis Alberto on the left in the midfield. On the right side will be Sergei Milinkovic-Savic, and then in the middle, oh god, I'll put Weston McKennie. But I think that might not be good. But I know that he's not a central defensive midfielder. But I think that I can even put Sergei Milinkovic-Savic in that role because he's that kind of more box to box midfielder, so that I can see. Then up top, I'll have Ronaldo with Immobile.
Very similar, I would think, to my lineup. I would probably not take any Lazio defenders on my list. Um, I'd probably have De Ligt and Chiellini, and or a back three with De Ligt, Chiellini, and Danilo,
Oh
and
shit!
then
I forgot about the list. Yeah,
yeah,
you can. I forgot. I was just going based on healthy players, but yeah, we can go Delin instead of Quadrado. I do Delit, Acerbi, and Kalini.
yeah. Um, and then you know, I would maybe go Lazzari, but can't keep Chiesa out. It's very similar, and I guess it depends on your formation as well. But I think if I were to say, I would keep Sergey and Luis Alberto 100%. And then debatable whether I'd put Immobile in there. Um, I just feel like I think his impression on me when he comes out of that Lazio jersey really bothers me, and so it doesn't make me a fan when he puts on the Azzurri colors or anywhere else. Really, he hasn't been great. So that kind of just that kind of bothers me. So I'm not sure I'd put him on a combined 11 personally, but one player I would definitely put on this Juventus 11 is Milinkovic Savic. A close call would be Luis Alberto, as you explained. Um, but Twitter just wanted to know which player that I would take from Lazio, and I feel like we're missing we're missing a true regista, but we're really missing goals from the midfield. Um, our shots from outside the box have decreased over the years since we got rid of that stellar midfield, and I think his ability to do both, create and provide goals from outside the box, and just in the midfield in general, is what we're missing. Similar to you know Pogba, he's very similar to Pogba, and I feel like we're missing that player. I feel like we'll never get another player like Pirlo. I think we need someone to circulate the ball, and Locatelli is obviously a name that is being circulated and seems to fit that role. So for me, it would be Milinkovic Savic. Um, I just feel like there's a great market there as well. Not only the player itself. I feel like he has a bigger market than Luis Alberto in general, as well, and more room for growth. And he can be a world class player. So that's who I would take. That kind of ends off our pre-match. I think we're kind of just similar in terms of where we're at. I feel like we both agree that uh, we should approach the game in the same way. Sitting back and taking our moments, but um, just like my brother responded to our tweet and said, what are your predictions, and why do we tie 1-1 after Juventus dominates the game and has no shots on target? So I feel like that's pretty much how it's gonna go, and um, I'm probably gonna be upset after the game. I really think they're gonna tie 1-1, and um, we're not gonna learn from what this squad can offer.
I agree that the way Juventus have played in the last 3-4 matches has been limited chances and just being opportunistic. So I think that's something that Lazio has been on the opposite end, where they do give up one chance, they come back to bite them. So hopefully that doesn't happen.
I want to thank you, Jerry, for joining me, and I guess joining enemy territory um, on this one. And first time having someone from the opposition join, um, and you gave some great insight onto players like that I don't really watch on a daily basis, and guys who are going to be given a chance against Juve, like you mentioned, Fares. Um, so thanks for giving that insight to us, and I hope that we come out with 3 points. It's gonna be a massive game for both of us. I think we're very similar in our situations, in our places in the table, and at this point we're both fighting for Champions League soccer. I think we're both not fighting for the Scudetto, but I mean that's another story, I guess. Um, so massive match, and best of luck. And I hope to see you again and do some more interaction with you. So yeah, thank you again for coming on.
Oh, thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.